our student from Rajkot. He was manufacturing. He
Right.
was making this khakra,
Right.
with crisp roti, and we had gone to Brazil, and yeah, crisp roti khakra is like a breakfast, something for a breakfast for Gujarati
Right.
Marwadi community in India and even others. But there he was able to sell it as a tidbit with the drinks, beer and
Chakna. He sold it as
so
chakna.
he, yes,
This is something which is a common notion that, exporting to Africa is going to be different. There's a lot of political instability there. They may not have enough, dollars and things like that. So how does a business owner navigate this in Africa first?
yeah. So primarily, the see political instability is there in many of the countries, but the countries are trading. India is already trading, big time, $98 billion. So the question is to take it up, and uh, our competitors, China is also trading 10 times more than us in the same political unstable country. So, the one good thing is that the government of India has this institution called ECGC, Export Credit Guarantee Corporation, which gives insurance against credit. So, that is something which I will encourage all entrepreneurs who are wanting to export to Africa to always avail, right? Because then you are protected, and you have an insurance against payment default, because payment default can come either by way of lack of foreign exchange in the country or by way of default by a particular
Right.
importing company. And then if you see regulatory and bureaucratic challenges, there are two very clear challenges. One is the pharmaceutical drug
Okay.
registration. Say about 10 years back, 15 years back, it was not so much strict there, but now, because of the rising living standards, because of rising expectations, because the economy is becoming more and more part of global value chain and supply chain, they have stringent registration regulations now. So for pharmaceutical and food, so that is something which Indian companies will have to navigate. And second is the customs. So customs is still a little bit tricky in these countries because it's still not digitalized, and there are variations in terms of import duty which they charge and clearance time. And so these are the two very clear challenges. Otherwise, the challenge is language. In some parts of Africa, the cultural difference, and of course, major issue is the foreign exchange, which even the some of the countries, their banks don't have foreign exchange. Even if the company who is import wants to import from you, they have
Hmm.
sufficient capital
Hmm.
to import, but it is in their currency. When they go to their bank says, I don't have foreign exchange to open LC, letter of credit or payment. So government of India has done a good initiative where we have line of
Okay.
credit, and we have given line of credit to many African countries, and it is tied to them importing from
Right.
India
Makes
only.
sense.
So if they, yes, so if they do not have funding, they can take the line of credit benefit, go to the bank, and foreign exchange currency letter of credit can be opened.
Okay. So I wanted to ask a little bit more about difference in culture. So what do you mean by that? Like what would a business owner experience when there's a difference in culture happening?
So if you see again West Africa were
Hmm.
French colonies earlier. So French language has a big impact. People speak French there, and that has been a challenge. But Indian companies have sorted it out. Like that is why in the first episode I had mentioned that one of the best way for Indian companies to get into export market is to hire interns. So if they hire intern who speaks French or Portuguese, and there are many in India, there are institutions like Franco Lyon, and many others who teach these languages, and we have a large number of students, almost 30 years they have been teaching. We need to hire such resources. And other cultural differences in terms of
Okay.
decision making, right? So the decision making process there is different. For example, if you take a
Hmm.
African continent, they would you know consult some people. They would see what has happened is almost 150 or even more years back. A lot of migration took place from Indian business community to
Okay.
African continent. Those years there was no ship with engine, so there were sailboats. They would sit two three brothers. It's a very interesting background to Africa. Two, three brothers would be in the vessel. They will go to Africa. Wherever the wind is there, the boat will go, and they would land in Nairobi or Madagascar or Mauritius or Dar es Salaam,
जो
and
गुजराती
then
सॉन्ग रिसेंटली फेमस हुआ था, प्रोबेबली टॉकिंग अबाउट देम, गोतिलो.
yes, yes, correct, 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 absolutely, absolutely. Because Gujarat is, I mean, the coast
Right,
is closest, and very
right,
enterprising community. So So they reached there and then they saw that okay, Indian spices are very popular, the Indian textile is very popular, and the Indian herbs and herbs is nothing but
right,
today's pharma. Those
right,
days it was herb, there was no pharma. So then one brother stayed back there, two came back. Then one used to go and come, one in Africa, one in India, and trade
right,
would happen. So we have so many Indian families in African continent, and that is why that they even non-Indian origin African companies, they would refer about a company to someone of Indian origin before deciding to do business. So the relationship with our Indian origin businesses should be good. So we should meet them because we have Indian, particularly after Mr. Modi became
right,
prime minister, he is the one who encased on the Indian
right,
diaspora capital and understood its power and the pulse. So that is something which we should be connecting to from a cultural point of view, right, with the Indian community in these
right.
countries.
So now, Jagatji, let's get into the next part, which is your Latin America market, the furthest away market from India, I would say. What kind of challenges have you seen business owners face when they're trying to sell there?
Yeah, so there are many similar challenges in Latin America as compared to Africa, but there are some additional ones. So first, of course, remains the language, right? Because they speak Portuguese and Spanish, and we do not speak that language, so we are not able to. For example, if we have to do market survey, it is a bit of a challenge. But one another initiative is that the embassies of India are supporting Indian business community with translators there, right? So that is something interesting. But in terms of decision making, the in Latin America again, the decision making process is a little slow because
Okay.
they are a little laid back country, except for Brazil, I would say. So it takes a little time to get the first deal done, and in India, we our entrepreneurs
Right.
lose the patience to wait. So I will suggest that patience is required in that market. And in terms of course, food and everything is different there, but you have to mix into that society. And I have a very interesting case study where one of our student from Rajkot, he
Right.
was making this khakra,
Right.
with crisp roti, and we had gone to Brazil, and yeah, crisp roti khakra is like a breakfast, something for a breakfast for Gujarati
Right.
Marwadi community in India and even others. But there he was able to sell it as a tidbit with the drinks, beer and
Chakna. He sold it as
so
Chakna.
yes, yes, he just crushed it. He crushed it, and it was put in a bowl, and it was actually the restaurant owner was very happy with it. He ordered containers because he said, right now, earlier I was giving all these, almonds and pistachios and
Right.
raisins, which cost me too much, and this cost is one fifth of that, and it is very tasty
Right.
also, and it is different. Oh, now that's a cultural difference. If we had gone there and said that khakra you should try with tea in the morning,
Right.
it would not work,
And I know this
right?
for a fact. Latin
But
America has a huge drinking culture. It's part
yes,
of their,
yes, absolutely,
like,
absolutely.
जैसे अपने लिए चाय
Yeah,
कॉफी है
yeah, yeah.
उनके लिए है.